In this week's reading from the Gospel of John, Jesus presents the last of his 7 I am statements. And in this statement, the Gospel writer mobilizes the image of the vine to help readers understand more about who Jesus is. Now, the image of the vine and the vineyard doesn't come out of nowhere. The early Jewish audience of the gospel would have immediately felt at home with the reference, as it is a common one in Hebrew scripture. We see it in the books of Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, Isaiah, and Psalms, and it's used as an image for God's careful planning and loving care for his cherished people, the people of Israel. I think my favorite comes from Psalm 80, verses 7 through 11, an image of God's beloved people trying to make sense of our suffering. And this is an image that's particularly relevant for our time today. Restore us, O God of hosts. Let your face shine that we may be saved. You brought a vine out of Egypt. You drove out the nations and planted it. You cleared the ground for it. It took deep root and filled the land. The mountains were covered with its shade, the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent out its branches to the sea and its shoots to the river. Why then have you broken down its walls so that all who pass along the way pluck its fruit? The boar from the forest ravages it, and all that move in the field feed on it. Turn again, O God of hosts. Look down from heaven and see. Have regard for this vine, the stalk that your right hand planted. Now, here in John chapter 15, the gospel is presenting Jesus as something remarkable. It's not just that he himself is the vine, like the people of Israel, but he is presented as being the true vine. So, strangely, the most interesting thing for people thinking about Jewish-Christian relations is the meaning of this word true, rather than the image of the vine itself. What does this true vine mean in relation to God's beloved vine of Israel? Has the vine of Israel been replaced? Has it been cast off or rejected? This image of the true vine is very helpful for us to think about the relationship between Christianity and Judaism, and to touch on the question and the challenge of supersessionism. So it's important for us to note a few things here. First, the image of Jesus as the true vine can only make sense for Christians who have a full appreciation for the people of Israel, for its role, for its election in the Hebrew Bible. There's no sense to be made of this image of Jesus without appreciation of its Hebraic context. Second, it is Jesus who is presented as the true vine, embodying and fulfilling God's plan for Israel. It's not that Christianity replaces Judaism or that the church replaces the Jewish people. Third, it's important to remember that true is actually a very rich and complex term, and we sometimes forget that. It doesn't have to contrast with false, and it ought not to be presented as such. This passage should not mean that Jesus is true and Israel is false, but rather it suggests the understanding that in the eyes of the gospel author, Jesus is the vehicle from here on in for God's plan in this world, just as Israel was until this point. So here, Jesus is continuing the role, the place, the work of Israel, not replacing it. Finally, here we can see that for Christians, and language is a slippery thing here, For Christians, Jesus comes to represent the fullness of Israel, the representation of Israel, the fulfillment of Israel. The idea that Jesus is the culmination of the chosen people is undoubtedly a point of disagreement between Jews and Christians. But it's also one that should inspire Christians to respect and cherish the Jewish people as the paradigm of Jesus.